Ron Hextall doesn't wheel and deal the way Paul Holmgren used to, but it's not about winning the offseason. It's about winning that guy back there. Caleb Weiler is here. I'm Adrian Fedhu. Flyers offseason talk now. Did the Sixers earlier in the week. Now it's up to the Fly guys.
Yeah, July 1st is the biggest day of the year for NHL free agency. All the big guys come out. There are not as many big names this year as there normally are, but it's going to be a huge offseason, especially for the Flyers.
Well, you know what? It's not about signing the big names anymore. I mean, it's not about getting guys like Vinny Lecavalier. It's about, locking up your core guys to extensions. That's at least what Hextall's been kind of doing early on. The Flyers have $11.93 billion to spend. That's the 19th most space in the league. Just to kind of compare that to some other teams, Arizona Coyotes, Carolina Hurricanes, they're number one, about just over $26 billion.
Yeah, normally the Flyers are up against the cap in recent years with Paul Holmgren as GM, $1 million, $2 million in cap space, where there's really not much you can do in the offseason, but Hextall has definitely positioned the Flyers in a good spot moving forward, even though they have some key restricted free agents to sign.
Yeah, let's get into those guys right now. We got Brayden Schenn, Nick Cousins, Brandon Manning. These are the guys that you kind of want to lock up. Ryan White is an unrestricted free agent. Obviously, the big key here is Brayden Schenn.
Yeah, I was a big advocate against Schenn for a couple of years. I thought the Flyers should trade him, but after last year, I think he ended the season with 44 points in 44 games. He just went off. I definitely see a contract coming for him, a big one. I'm surprised they haven't announced anything already. I'm probably thinking somewhere around $5.5 million for 5 years, something comparable to a Couturier's contract in between him and what Voracek and Giroux are making. A couple other restricted free agents I think we should sign. I think we should sign Nick Cousins maybe to like a $1 million 1 year deal, kind of like a show me what you can do contract because he was a third-round pick. If you can't make it, let him go after that. My black horse for the Flyers to sign is going to be Jordan Wheel. He didn't get a lot of playing time last year, but he's still under contract, and the Flyers qualified him. So they still have his rights. I think he'll be a good piece on the team in the bottom six next year.
There you go. The one and only Caleb Weiler. Now, Schenn, that's Bill's boy. So is Bill the reason why he's gotten on your good side?
I used to tease Bill all the time. And then now he sends it right back to me because I'm like, you were right. I was wrong for like once. And so he lets me have it now. But I think his play, other than Bill's constant yelling at me, really turned me around on him.
All right, let's talk about some of the biggest needs on this team. What are they? I mean, they're not going to have that much money to spend, I guess, once they kind of lock up Schenn. We'll see. But, yeah, biggest needs on the team.
Right now, the biggest need is going to be a big scoring winger. They need somebody who can put the puck in the net. Giroux and Voracek on that top line are great playmakers. Voracek has great puck possession stats, but they're not shooters. So I'd like to see the Flyers go after some big left wingers because Voracek plays right wing. You have Simmons who scores too, but drop him down to the second line, and I think you're going to be good. You have so much young defense coming up, plus Radko Gudas signed for a couple of years now. So defense really isn't something that I'd be worried about. You have 7 defensemen that are currently on the roster. If you include Ivan Provorov, who's probably going to make the team this year. So I definitely see the Flyers going after somebody on the wing.
Yeah, I mean, some of these guys, some of these young pieces that are going to be coming up for next season, this obviously is going to help, kind of filling in some of those needs. Who are some free agents you want to look at? Who are some guys you're interested in?
All right, so I have a list of my top 5 free agents that I would like to see the Flyers at least talk to. All of them are wingers, and one of them may surprise you, so I'm going to go. My number 1 choice is going to be Louis Erickson. He played for the Boston Bruins last year. He had 30 goals and 33 assists for a total of 63 points. Obviously, a 30-goal scorer is something that's hard to come by in today's NHL. So I'd love to see him on Giroux's wing because I think he could be awesome. He is 30 years old, so I'd probably sign him to something like a 4-year, $4.5 million contract. You don't want to sign him for too long because after 35, 36, players start to slow down. My second free agent that I'd like to see the Flyers sign is Kyle Okposo. He played for the Islanders last year. Great skater, great player. He played alongside John Tavares. He scored 22 goals and had 41 points, or 41 assists for also a total of 63 points, like Erickson. A little less goals, a little more assists. That's why I have Erickson slightly above Okposo. A couple other guys that I might want to see the Flyers go after. Milan Lucic, everybody hates him because he's just a big old goon. But if you want to go back to Broad Street Bullies days, Milan Lucic is going to look huge next to Giroux and Voracek. He scored 20 goals and had 34 assists for a total of 54 points. Definitely not too bad. You could definitely have worse. Rounding out the bottom two, Michael Bodker, who was playing for the Arizona Coyotes last year. I believe he got traded at some point during the season. He's a really speedy winger. He's only 26. I don't think he's going to command a lot on the open market, maybe 3.5 to 4 million for 3 or 4 years. He had 17 goals and 34 assists. Definitely a player you want on your team. And my dark horse, number 5, he was actually on the Flyers last year, Sam Gagner. He was a number 1 overall pick at some point for the Oilers. He was really clicking with Couturier at the end of the year. He only had 16 points last year in 54 games. But if you could sign him on a 1-year, $1.5 million show-me contract, I would love to bring him back.
Okay, so some of your kind of top options there, you might only be able to sign like one guy.
Yeah, like I said, I would probably choose Erickson over everybody, even though he's the oldest. I think it's going to be good to have that veteran presence on your roster, somebody who can score 30 goals. At some point, he was at a point-per-game pace last year. I think on the wing with Giroux and Voracek feeding him pucks all day, he's just going to keep scoring. He was on my fantasy team last year, and so, bringing it back to that. And I think he could be a really, really good fit for the Flyers.
Funny how that works. Whenever you got a guy on your fantasy team, that's who you want to sign in the offseason.
Yeah, exactly. They want me some money, so, can't hurt.
So would you rather have like a guy like Erickson, or would you rather kind of sign like 2 kind of lower tier names instead of just one?
For me personally, I have a Flyers roster built up in my mind for next year with bringing up some younger guys that you don't necessarily need to pay a lot of money to. So I would probably pay Erickson his $4.5 million. As long as it doesn't cost more than that, I'm not going to sink $6-7 million into a guy placed by a prospect in a couple years. So if we could get him on a manageable contract, I would love to have that one top scorer instead of 2 meager guys, because we can plug those holes with a pretty decent top 6 that we have.
There you go. So yeah, I'm gonna post your roster on Twitter after this show so everyone can see it, because you're a genius, you're a mad scientist, and basically you should be running the team.
Well, Ron Hextall might know a little bit more than me, but if he ever needs an assistant, he knows where to find me.
You might be better than Holmgren, though.
I would hope so.
Oh, man. All right, yeah, let's talk about Holmgren and Hextall, kind of some of the differences. This is the 3rd year now Hextall has the GM control. What are you seeing from Hextall? What do you love about him that you're seeing so far compared to Holmgren?
We don't call him Sexy Hexy for nothing. I love that he's building around the core players that we have. He's not going out and signing big-name free agents who are past their prime, a la Vincent Lecavalier. He was obviously just never going to be a fit here. He was old. He was slow, just not working. I like the fact that Hextall is building through the draft, and he's not really playing for now. He's playing for now and for the future, which is something Holmgren never did. He would trade away those first-round picks and sign guys to really just not good deals. Now, you can't blame Holmgren for everything. He did do some good things. He traded Carter and Richards at a good time and netted us back 4 of our top 6 forwards right now. So you can't always be bad on Holmgren, but I prefer Hextall just because of his patience to the process.
Trusting the process. That's been something we've been hearing in Philadelphia for a while now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do not put Sam Hinkie words in my mouth, though. This is different.
Yeah. Andrew McDonald was another bad contract.
Yeah, that was awful. Like, they'll never be able to get rid of that contract. And even if they buy him out, the cap hit is still going to be astronomical. So I would love to see the Flyers trade him, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. It doesn't matter what sport it is. Any win now type of GM never really pans out. And for whatever reason, we keep seeing the same shit in all these different leagues. The way to go is to do what Hextall is doing. Any sport, whatever it is, You build through the draft, you lock up your core players. Those are the guys you want to build your team with. Because when you sign a bunch of free agents, all of a sudden you got to get that chemistry going, and it doesn't always work out.
Yeah, I definitely do not like that win now mentality. Obviously, if the Flyers were in a position to win the Stanley Cup and there was a piece they could sign for a year or two or trade for a year or two that would guarantee them a cup, I'd be all for it. But I'm not for, when you're a bubble team, trading away your young prospects to other teams just to get a rental re-sign with the team, especially if you don't have cap space, which was pretty much the norm when Holmgren was the GM.
Yeah, and that's what you're supposed to do. When you're like on the cusp of winning, that's when you sign that one sort of piece to put you over the top. That's when you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And the Flyers haven't been in that position for a long time. They were struggling with their goalie for a while when they had Brizgalov. Now they have Mason, who's definitely a stud in net, and I love him. And I really just think the Flyers are definitely putting themselves in a good position with the young talent they have coming up, as well as the veteran presence to be serious cup contenders in a couple years. There you
go. All right, let's talk about what happened yesterday. Madness, shenanigans. Steven Stamkos gets a huge contract, doesn't even test the waters. You got the big trade involving Montreal and Nashville, PK Subban and Shea Weber. And then you got the Taylor Hall trade as well. So 3 big moves yesterday. I guess let's start with Montreal, because what the hell were they thinking?
I've been trying to wrap my mind around this trade for the last couple hours. I got out of work and my phone was blowing up and I was seeing all these trades. And the first thing I thought was like, the Canadian fans are going to riot, because that is by far the worst trade I've ever seen. You traded Subban from age 27 to age 32 for Shea Weber from age 31 to age 40. Like, that just does not compute for me. Shea Weber's a great defenseman. He has a rocket of a shot, but eventually he's going to slow down. PK Subban, on the other hand, is about to go into his prime for a defenseman. He's already won a Norris Trophy. And I'm hopping on the Nashville train. I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the league next year.
Yeah, and talk about that back line, that defense, that quartet they have, all under 27.
Yeah, Nashville is set for the next however many years they want. Subban's 27, Roman Yossi's only 25, Ekholm and Ellis are also only 25. So their top 4 is 27 and younger on the defensive end, and getting rid of that albatross of a Weber contract is definitely going to help them in the future.
Now let's talk about the other trade that happened. Taylor Hall for Adam Larson. So now we're going to have to play Taylor Hall a lot. You think he immediately becomes the best forward New Jersey has?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. Taylor Hall is a stud, and that trade bummed me out more than the other one, because I wanted Taylor Hall personally, because he's going to put up 80, 90 points on Giroux's wing, and now hopefully he's going to waste away in a Devils uniform for the next couple years. But that was definitely a steal for the Devils. I think they traded Adam Larson, who's projected to be a number 1 defenseman, but really isn't there just yet. I think the Oilers traded for need, which you should never do. They traded their best player, second best player, now that they have McDavid, for a need. But Larson really doesn't feel that need. I think if you would have taken these trades apart and traded Subban for Hall, that would have been a better trade. But, didn't really work out that way. I think the Canadian teams did make the playoffs last year and were like, well, we suck anyway. Let's just get rid of our good players.
You hear me? Stamkos deal?
Oh, no, sorry. You froze for a second.
Okay. Stamkos deal. Talk about it.
So I think the Steven Stamkos signing was actually a bit of a steal. I was expecting him to sign for $10 million plus, and I think he took a pretty big discount to stay in Tampa Bay. They still have a couple other pieces to sign. They have Nikita Kucherov, who's a restricted free agent, kind of in the same boat as Braden Shen, and Jonathan Drouin eventually is going to be up for a new contract as well. So I think Stamkos chose to take the lesser money in Tampa Bay, which you don't see a lot today. A lot of players are kind of like, well, I only have a short career. I got to make as much money as possible. He definitely took a contract that he could have made more in, say, Detroit or Toronto, and took it in Tampa to stay there so they could re-sign Kucherov and hopefully Drouin for their sakes. I would love either one of them. But I think what this means is that they're eventually going to have to trade Ben Bishop. I see him ending up somewhere in the West, maybe in Dallas.
All right. We forgot to talk about on the Flyers side is who do you think might get traded? Any guys that potentially could be on the move?
From the Flyers side, I think Matt Reed has a shot to be traded. I think there really isn't a spot for him on this team anymore. He's 30 years old. We have some young guys who can kill the penalties, and like Belmar, Van de Velde, Couturier, Lawton, Cousins. So all these guys can kill penalties for half the fraction of what Matt Reed costs. So I think he could potentially be on the move. If you were to ask about some other teams who are looking to trade some players, I would say the Blues are still looking to move Kevin Shattenkirk. See the Flyers do is trade for Jordan Eberle from the Edmonton Oilers. My ideal trade would maybe be a cap dump, see if you could get rid of Andrew McDonald and maybe throw in a first or second round pick to land Eberle.
There you go. All right. Let's see. That's about it for this show. Any final thoughts before we get out?
Well, tonight's like Christmas Eve for me, so I don't know how well I'm going to sleep. I'm really excited to see what happens tomorrow because I think the more and more that free agents get signed, the trade market's going to heat up a little bit more, and hopefully we see some sexy Hexy magic over the next couple weeks.
There you go. There you go. And whenever players get signed, we'll be coming with a video. So we'll see what happens over the next couple days. We'll see when people are available, but we will have content for you guys to check out on our YouTube page. So with that being said, that's Caleb Weiler. I'm Adrian Fedque. Caleb's the best in the business. You've seen it here on the Bitter Birds. We're out.
See ya.